broadcasting live from the Roanoke Valley of southwestern Virginia. Join us and see what life looks like from a medium's perspective with Reverend Tracey Lockwood, the medium's medium. We'll explore the tools of psychic development, hear stories and experiences from the other side, and learn to listen to our natural intuition. Now, our host, Reverend Tracey Lockwood.
Hello, beautiful lights, and welcome to another episode of From a Medium's Perspective. Well, I wanted to give you a blurb about my professional psychic mediumship certification program. It starts this Saturday on February 4th and will be starting again mid-August. For those of you that can't make the February session, it is a live webinar training, a 14-week program, and I hope to continue it for years to come. It is an immersion program, and it gives you a substantial amount of practice giving readings and using about every technique that's available. We're going to be doing readings beginning with the body basics and then on to the left brain tools, using some that are for psychic readings, and then letting go of the tools completely and moving into mediumship exercises and an introduction to channeling. For those of you that plan a career in psychic mediumship, this course is for you. It includes business tips in addition to a wealth of information that will position you at the top of your field. If you are just learning to use your abilities and you'd like a comprehensive structured program to develop them within, this program is also for you. It's designed for individuals at all levels of practice. The certifications are awarded according to performance. There are 3 different levels and they will be appropriate to you. So you definitely will get one, and you can always come back for more if you're interested. My website has more information at mediumtracylockwood.com, or you can find more information on my YouTube channel with Medium Tracey Lockwood. Just put it in there, you'll find me. Well, I cannot tell you how excited I am to have today's guest. I love having peers on the show. She is a spirit artist. She's also an evidential medium. Also, she's psychic and tarot reader. British by birth. She was born in Cyprus. She was based for many years in the Middle East. She's always been fascinated by the metaphysical world and spirituality. She was able at a very early age to see spirit. Her name is medium Terri Bowden. Hi, Terri.
Hi, Tracey. Thank you for a wonderful introduction, and congratulations on your new project.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited.
Sounds very interesting.
Thank you. I for those of you out there that would like to check up on Terri while you're listening to the show today, you can find her at her website, which is spiritguidedportraits.com. Spiritguidedportraits, plural. .com. I want to ask you, first of all, when you realized that you were a medium, I know as a child you saw spirit and maybe you grew up in a family that understood what that was. How does being a medium give you a different perspective on life?
Oh, good question. I never dreamt or thought I'd be a medium. It was just something that I just took for granted. And then I got told several times, oh, one day you're going to be a medium. And, and here I am in the States, trained as a medium now. It allows me to talk more frequently with spirit, whereas just seeing them and talking to them in my head, I now can control it and get more evidence, which I find fascinating, the stories that come out. And obviously I have no control on what they tell me. It's just fascinating to me what spirit comes out with, and I just love it. And I love being able to give comfort to people. But yeah, it's a fascinating world, and you're forever learning. I mean, you don't just become a medium and then you stop. You carry on learning because there's so much out there. And there's so many different avenues that you can pick up, and you want to learn more and go on. So it's like a long-term occupation or hobby, whatever you'd like to call it. And I just find it absolutely fascinating. And I do question it. I don't take everything on face value. I want it proven to me, as most of you probably do.
When you were a child, it was very natural to you to know and act on Spirit's advice. Tell us a little bit about some of your childhood experiences.
Well, as a child, I could always see Spirit, and I didn't realize they were spirit. I thought they were ghosts, and they were just these amazing people that would come in and go out. And my parents used to think I was absolutely nuts, and I had imaginary friends. But whenever we traveled, I was drawn to different churches, and I would attend different churches. I was searching for something, and I didn't know what. And if there was a fortune teller, I was there banging at the door. I wanted to know, I wanted to know how they knew things. I was always so inquisitive, and lucky enough, my parents allowed me to carry on knocking on doors and attending various different churches. They just thought I was a nutter, but they let me get on with it. But when I found the spiritualist church in England, I just suddenly felt I'd come home. It was like all those years of my searching, suddenly it made complete sense. And I didn't attend, I just attended the service because obviously we would be flying in and flying out. And I would turn up at these spiritualist churches and sit at the back and absorb as much as I could. And then one of my return trips to Bahrain, there was a notice in the newspaper. There was a group of spiritualists wanting to set up a circle in Bahrain. Still not knowing very much about it, I rang up and said, "What is it? I want to know more about it. And what is all this spirit, spiritualism and stuff?" So they invited me to come and talk to them. And they proceeded to train me for 2 years, making me read books and question things on everything. After 2 years, I think I was 16 then, they invited me to see what powers or what anything that I had. So they tested me on psychometry. But I think because I was so young, they wanted to make sure, and not to frighten me, that they wanted me to learn what I was getting into, which is why they made me study and learn. So they sort of allowed me in, and after 2 years, they decided to see if I had anything or was able to do anything. And the first thing they gave me was an object to do psychometry, and I just read it, and they just looked at me, and I think their mouth just fell open, and I just looked at them blank and went, well, that's what I normally do anyway. So they were having an open house, and they invited me to participate, to various people that would turn up and to give readings. And then they invited me to join the circle in the evenings thereafter. And from then, there was no going back.
Yes, absolutely. What an amazing introduction to it as a discipline, not just as an encounter with the random reader, but a very deep. And how you were in your teens or 20s? How old were you when that?
I was, when I first found them, I was 14. And when they first tested me, I was 16.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So they made me really study for 2 years. And going into the circle for the first time, I was allowed to sit on the outside of the circle, not to join the circle. The amount of people in that room, it was packed. And of course, I could see them all. And the power and the energy, my eyes just ran. I wasn't crying. It was just so powerful. And I was just looking in awe of all these spirits being there. I was just amazed at the whole thing. And then eventually I was allowed to actually join the circle and progress from then onwards, really.
That's wonderful. Do you teach as well, Terri?
Yes, I've just started teaching. At the moment I'm teaching people to draw their own spirit guide, and I'm teaching the beginnings of mediumship.
Tell our listeners a little bit on spirit art. How did you get into that? I'm sure that was a natural process for you.
Well, I've always been an artist up to sort of like 18, and I won a scholarship to go to Paris, which for family reasons I had to decline. And I never picked up pen and paper again, so I haven't really drawn for over 40 years. And my husband keeps trying to encourage me, but I've always been scared to, because you know how good you was, and you know that you're not going to be the same. So I've just dismissed it. Well, one day I was sitting in mediumship class, probably about 3 years ago, and I got told by Spirit to come to class and bring pen and paper to draw. And I'm going, yes, very hesitantly, nervously. Needless to say, I did. And I sat in class, obviously listening, and then Spirit told me to start drawing a face. Now, I've never drawn portraits. That wasn't my gift in art. I find it very complicated. But nevertheless, I started to draw a face very quickly. And at the end of the class, I asked anybody if they recognized, and I don't even know why I said this. Mm-hmm. Did anybody recognize this child that I'd drawn? And a lady who was sitting 3 rows in front of me turned around and said, yes, that's my son. And I went, pardon? She, the following week, bought a photograph of her son, which actually matches the picture I drew amazingly. And that's how it started, drawing loved ones in spirit. They come back when they are younger, obviously, not when they're a child. And you will always find a photograph of what I've drawn in your possession or in the family possession, which I find fascinating.
It is. It is. We're trained, we're practiced, we're pros. So it's not that we need feedback from our clients, but it's always so cool to see, to see a spirit and then have someone whip a picture out and go, yeah, that's the one, or to be able to pick them out from a photograph or whatever. It's lovely to have the confirmation. Not that we're needing it, but it's so nice to have that. And how precious is that to the people that you're drawing for, too, as a visual confirmation that life continues after death, that person's presence is still able to really communicate. I think it's a lovely expression.
It's very comforting when you finish drawing it and you really do not know if you've drawn the right person, and you turn the picture around and they recognize it. They're just gobsmacked as I am, and they go, oh, yes, and you've got the right color eyes.
And you've got examples of your spirit-guided portraits on spiritguidedportraits.com on your website.
Yes, I do, yes. So you can actually see the photograph that they've sent and the picture that I've drawn. But it's quite fascinating because while I'm drawing, I do get Spirit talking to me, saying, oh, change my hairstyle. There was one that was, he wanted me to change his hairstyle to the Beatle hairstyle. And I said to him, are you sure? And he said, yes, don't worry. When I turned the drawing round to the young lady I did it for, and she said, oh my God, that's my dad. He loves the Beatles. And I've got a photograph of him with the same hairstyle. He told me to draw it. And she started laughing. She was so happy.
That is so beautiful. I was noticing in some of the things we exchanged prior to the show that at one time you had started to learn to read palms. Tell me what happened with that.
Yeah, I was a little bit older than 16. I think I was in my 20s, and I started to learn palmistry and reading palms, and I was doing quite well at it. And I was actually attended a spiritualist church in England, and I got turned round and told, stop it now. This is not your forte. You're not to go down that line. And I'm going, but I liked it. And they said, no, if you want to do anything, pick up the tarot cards. Not that you need them, but your clientele needs them.
Yes.
Switch, and I didn't want to.
Uh-huh.
They turned around, and I'd been studying all these books that I'd bought, but all my books vanished.
Ah, Spirit will do that.
Oh, yes, and I was amazed that they were going to stop me one way or the other.
Well, they were pushing you to expand into another venue that is much more intuitive.
Yes, I know, but it was quite funny and I was quite amazed. I mean, you can't argue, and if you don't listen to spirit, they have a way of coming back to you and saying you will listen. So that was the first case of my not listening of what they did. They removed all my books and introduced me to the wonderful world of tarot cards. So I started doing tarot cards, really, but it wasn't so much of reading the cards, it's just telling what spirit comes through.
Yes, more like spiritual tarot. Well, you kind of alluded to something about that was how spirit kind of stopped you from that. And it's funny because developed as we are, it's silly that we don't listen sometimes. Of all people, we should listen. Can you give me another
An example of that? Yes. I had a business in the Middle East, in Bahrain, and I was working 7 days a week, probably 18 hours a day.
Oh, good God.
Really, I was a workaholic, and I was not putting any play in my life. And after quite a couple of years of doing this, Spirit was getting pretty fed up with me because obviously I wasn't working in my world. So they decided there was only one way to stop me, they kept trying to attract my attention and get me to play, but work came first. So I became ill, something that I was teaching the Arab women, actually, and then I found out that I had cervical cancer.
Oh, I'm so sorry that you dealt with that.
Yeah, and it just came out of the blue, and it was stage 3 to stage 4, so I was gobsmacked because I was very adamant of always getting checked up. So I was shocked. And anyway, I got treated, I'm fine, but after the treatment and everything, I was very lucky. Spirit turned around to me and said, that's a warning. When we tell you to slow down and put play in your life, you will put play in your life.
Yeah.
So I did take heed. I put play in my life because Spirit wants you to be playful and to have fun. They don't want you to work all the time. You will have enough of whatever you need. So I did listen for a while, but then after a year or so, I got so involved again, and it was during the Gulf War. Things got pretty hectic, and I got very busy, and then the second Gulf War, and it was just after the second Gulf War, Spirit turned around to me and told me, you have to sell your business, you have to sell it. And I'm going, no, just I've got to do 2 more things, and then I will. But they said, no, you had to do it then, and I wouldn't listen.
Yeah.
So I lost my business, I lost my house, my animal died, all within a month.
It's like, we're done. Come on.
Yes. I just could not believe what had happened. And then where I lived, they were going to knock it down and rebuild, and they wanted everybody to move instantly.
Yes.
And I had nowhere, I had no income. So I just went to Spirit and I said, well, okay, so what are you going to do? You've done this to me. I need a roof over my head.
Right.
And I can't afford to pay for anything. And would you believe they found me the most amazing house, Arabic house, with these beautiful stained glass windows, and a landlord that allowed me to live there, make alterations with him, and I didn't have to pay rent for a year.
Wow.
So long as I helped him by helping him do the other apartments he wanted to make and guide him. And in return, he said, you can pay your rent later when you get yourself sorted out. And I thought, thank you, Spirit.
It's very important for all of us, not just those of us that are working in Spirit, to listen to, and when we hit resistance, to take that path of least resistance.
Now, back to our show, from a medium's perspective, with host, Reverend Tracey Lockwood.
Welcome back. If you missed the first half of the show, or you'd like to listen to any of the other past episodes, we've been doing this a couple of years, so I think they're close to, maybe close to 100 shows on my YouTube channel. Please check them out and feel free to subscribe while you're there. If you wanted to contact our guest today, her name is Terri Bowden. Website spiritguidedportraits.com. Well, welcome back, Terri. I'm so happy again to have you with us today.
Thank you. Going slightly back to the last story was where Spirit had found me this house. It was actually located partially on a cemetery that dated back BC. The Bahrain government had decided that they were going to dig up all the graves and remove whatever they found and put it into the museum, which was kind of just outside my front doorstep.
Wow.
So I had a lot of the spirits visiting me constantly. They were just inquisitive to know what I was doing when I first moved in, and they were around all the time. But one day they got really agitated with all the bulldozers and what was going on there. And I was talking to a colleague of mine, and I said, they've got to move. They're earthbound. We need to release them. So we proceeded that evening to walk up and down this rough street, which was just just a dirt road, where all these graves laid. And we walked up and down, releasing them with Archangel Michael. And a lot of them did go up to the light. I could actually see them leaving. And obviously there was a lot that was very scared because they'd been there for years and didn't want to go. But it was so powerful, the energy of seeing them again. My eyes were just pouring
Yes.
as they were going. And
It's an incredibly beautiful experience to watch someone move to a higher vibration. It's just spectacular.
I can't describe the feeling. It's just, as you would say, awesome.
Yeah.
So we did that, and an awful lot went up. And then probably about a year later, again, they came to visit me, and I called my girlfriend. I said, look, we've got to do it again. We need to send the second batch up before I leave this country, because I was leaving Bahrain for good. So we did the same thing, and we walked up and down, and we released another large batch that went up, and it was just equally as powerful. And you feel so happy for them, and they're happy.
Yes.
That they're scared, but you're talking to them very calmly and saying, go up, there's nothing to be afraid. And Archangel Michael was with them, helping them. It was just so powerful. It brings tears to my eyes now just talking about it.
Absolutely.
It's just incredible. And I was so thankful that I could help them.
Well, some of our listeners might be thinking, well, why would you have to cross a soul over? I think of there being the lower astral realm where people haven't quite maybe even crossed into even that level. I call it the tweener zone, because they haven't made it across into the next astral body yet. The reason being that they're afraid, usually they're stuck because of fear or confusion, sometimes a sudden death.
I think in this case, you have to realize these graves go back before Christ.
Yes.
Where there was war, and so people died, and they were just thrown in bodies on top of bodies,
Yes, so violent passing, yes.
So they didn't know any better, and they certainly didn't know that much what we know today. Obviously some would have gone past, but it was very ravaged in those days, and so they just built up, and then babies were buried on top, and women on top of women, and men on top of men. And then as the world changes, they get hidden with the sandstorms, and people build on top of them, not realizing that necessarily there's a graveyard there. Mm-hmm. Takes centuries, and that's what's happened.
Wow.
So
what an amazing experience to have witnessed and to have been a part of energetically. You also host an expo where people can come that are readers and involved in energy medicine and holistic aspects of alternative medicine, etc. Tell us a little bit about your expo and how that began and what's going on with that now.
Well, this year, our third expo will be in July in Virginia Beach, or we've now moved the location. It's on the border of Virginia Beach and Norfolk. Started last year. I do it biannually. So the first was in July last year, and then the second one was in December. And because there is nothing in this area other than the Casey, which have a small psychic fair, people here are opening up more, and I felt they have to travel so far, the nearest is Raleigh, to attend an expo like this where they're open to all the different modalities that are available. Well, what happened was I'd actually popped to England, and when I came back, it was like speaking to me saying, yes, your friend had planted this idea, and we think it's wonderful, and you are going to do it. And I'm going, oh, yes. No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
So finally I phoned up the convention center here and found out the rates and the costs and everything. And I came back and had this little conversation with Spirit in my garden. And I said, look, I can't afford it. There you go. Look at this. And they said,
yes.
Really?
I understand. I'm giggling because I'm laughing because I get in that state of mind like, no, that's impossible. I can't do that. And of course, that's Spirit's forte to bust all those limitations right out of the water.
Yes. 2 days later, I was in the bank and paying some money, and then the bank manager walked past and words just came out of my mouth. They weren't my words.
You're not claiming them.
No, I'm not. She said, come and talk to me.
What did you say? What did you say?
I can't really remember. I know, I wasn't asking anything. And she obviously made a comment and said, come and talk to me. And she said, what's going on? And I said, I want to do an expo, but I need some financial help. And she went, well, let's see what we can do. And I really expected her to say, we can't help you, don't be so silly, because you don't help small businesses that much.
Right, exactly. And this is really a very different, yes.
I could not believe it. So I gave her what information I had, and she said, give me a couple of days. Well, within 24 hours, she called me back and she said, you have it. And I went, beg your pardon. And I could hear Spirit laughing in the background saying, and your problem was?
Right. And you said we couldn't do it or it can't be done. Beautiful.
And that's how it started, and sort of been running ever since. Well, the expo, the first one was amazing. Because I attend a lot of expos, so I went round and I asked everybody, I said, will you consider coming to Virginia Beach? And they said, not particularly. And I said, well, reconsider. And they said, why? I said, just reconsider and have a word with your spirit guide, please.
That's right. Cheeky, but very well said. Yes.
Yes. So word got round on the circuit, and I must admit all my colleagues were very supportive. They were phoning up and saying, okay, tell us more about it. And then the next thing I knew, we were full. Then it was getting word of mouth out, making sure that people would attend. So that went quite well. And the same thing with the second.
Wonderful.
And it's just kind of taken off. I sort of said to Spirit, if you're going to get me to do this, then you're going to have to participate and make sure that it's successful for everybody.
Yes.
And the energy in the venue and the whole energy was very good. And when I've attended the Spiritist Church, I've got messages from Spirit saying, we're all there, we're all lined up, we're waiting for the big day.
Oh, that's so beautiful. That's so beautiful.
Yeah, so hopefully we will continue and we be successful for everybody.
Oh, that's wonderful. I want you to look over your many years of doing readings, some through your spirit art and some otherwise. What is a story that pops in mind that was particularly interesting for you as a medium to experience and gave you maybe an insight into something you wouldn't have thought about on your own? I know that happens all the time, but just see what pops in your mind.
There was a reading that I was giving to a lady that came to see me, and for reasons I'm going to call her a mountain woman. I just felt that was about her, that she lived in the mountains and she was very much in line with nature. Well, apparently she had been told by her doctor that she only had a couple of weeks to live.
Mm-hmm.
Now, during my reading to her, I did not get this at all. And she wanted to know about her spirit guide, and I drew him, who was a male, for her and told her about him, and he told me about her, but there was nothing about her illness.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of it, she said to me, I've been told that I'm going to die in about 2 weeks, and you've not mentioned anything. And I said, because there's nothing there. You are not going to die.
Mm-hmm.
And she looked at me and said, how can you be so sure? I said, I would have been told. I said, there is nothing here. And she said, would you speak to my spirit guide and ask him? So I did, and he said, no, she's going to be fine. It's not her time to go. Not yet. She will be going, but not yet. So the conversation carried on. She wanted to know if he would be with her when she passed, and would he leave her any signs so she knew that he was around, because she was very scared.
Yes.
So he agreed to leave her some feathers, some white feathers for her. And every time she saw them, it was to remind her that he was with her at all the time. So she said, okay. And he then proceeded to tell her to eat more healthy and more from the land and take care of herself. So we left it at that, and she was more relaxed when she left me and smiling. So that was good. A year later, I attended the same place, and I'd mentioned to my husband, I hope this lady comes back.
Right.
You know,
right.
because it's something that really pulled on my heart. Anyway, I was busy working, and then one of the girls that was taking the bookings for me said, before your next person, I'm giving you a breather because there's a woman here who wants to talk to you. So I said, okay. And it turned out to be the daughter of my mountain woman. And she said, I just wanted to come back and thank you. And I said, what for? She said, you gave my mother a reading. My mother recently passed. And I went, I'm so sorry. So that was nearly a year after the time. And she said, but she left on her terms, whereas before she wasn't ready to go.
Oh.
And she said, I wanted to thank you because the spirit guide said he would leave my mother some feathers as messages that he was around. Well, she kept getting all these feathers, and she told the rest of the family, which were not close, that she would be getting these white feathers. Well, suddenly all the family reunited, and they were phoning her up saying, there's a white feather, we just found one in an unusual place, it must be yours. And they would be sending her all these feathers, plus all the ones that she found. But what the spirit guide had united the whole family and given her the strength for her to get her papers and everything in order, to look after her house. She'd attended various places and looked after herself, and that when she was, just before she passed, she was ready to pass. She knew she would never get better, but she was ready and she was at peace. And she said, I just wanted to thank you for your help and the help that other people gave as well, that my mum went so peacefully.
Oh, how beautiful.
And I went, thank you for letting me know, and thank you, Spirit and your mum's spirit guide for being there with her. And she said, she went peacefully, she was happy, and the whole family is now united.
Oh, that is precious.
It is.
We are coming so close to the end of the show, and I don't want to let you go before you share a technique that might help our mediums that are developing their skill. What do you have in mind?
Okay, well, a lot of us, when you're developing your mediumship, you cannot get the information through quickly. There's always this delay, and you're always wondering where you're using your left brain because you're analyzing things. I got taught, and it does work, because you have to work in your right brain, is you need to close your eyes and see the number 1 in front of you using your third eye. See the number 1. Now push the number 1 to your left side of your head, your left brain. Then bring it back to the center, and then push it to the right side. And then the same thing I want you to say in your mind and using your hearing, the number 1, and hear it in your left ear. Then bring it back. Now push it to your right ear, which is again your right brain, and hear it. The more frequently you can do that you can tell the difference between your left brain and your right brain. Because your left brain, you analyze, in which is what we do not work in. We work in our right brain where we do not analyze. To build up this, you can do it. The more you do it, the more frequent it becomes, and the quicker it comes. You automatically know that you're working from your right brain, and the words from spirit comes out quicker.
That's a great technique. I think that is the battle that we go through in sustaining that contact with our subconscious and with the subtle realms, letting that left brain, our analytical mind, be quiet, because it's always going to argue. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's not possible. It isn't real. How do you know that? You're crazy. They're not going to believe you. Blah, blah, blah,
blah, blah, blah. Well, to me, on my left side is the little devil. On my right side is my angel. And I always say my angels speak louder.
That's right. Thank you so much. I will see you next week for a view of life from a medium's perspective. And remember, it's never inappropriate to be kind. And without integrity, you have nothing.